Welcome back to the adventures of Wumni, the Blue-Eye Warrior. Wumni's journey has begun. Leaving behind the safety of home, she sets out on a trek to the warrior's village, where she hopes to prove herself. The journey begins. As agreed, upon Wumni's 16th birthday, she prepared herself for the journey to Chief Ahmadi's village for her warrior training. The sun hung low on the horizon as Wumni set out from her village, the familiar paths of her home fading into the distance with each step. It was a 2-day journey to Chief Ahmadi's village, and the weight of her destiny seemed to grow heavier with every step. But she was not alone. Beside her, walking silently and gracefully, was her companion, O'Shea, a sleek leopard with a coat that shimmered like liquid gold in the dappled sunlight. Wumni glanced at O'Shea, her blue eyes reflecting a mix of emotions that she couldn't quite put into words. The leopard, sensing her unease, turned its head and gave a soft growl, as if urging her to speak her mind.
You always know when something's on my mind, don't you, O'Shea? Sometimes I think you know me better than I know myself.
O'Shea gave no reply, of course, but its gaze remained steady, a silent encouragement. Wumni smiled faintly, then took a deep breath and let her thoughts spill out.
I don't know what to feel right now. I'm excited, I think. Or maybe nervous. Or both. This is everything I've wanted, isn't it? To prove myself, to become a warrior like the ones in the stories. But what if I can't do it? What if I'm not as strong as everyone thinks I am?
Her pace slowed as she spoke, her feet kicking up dust on the well-worn path. She reached out to touch O'Shea's sleek fur, drawing comfort from her warmth.
What if I'm the only girl there? Will they even take me seriously? What if they laugh at me, or worse, ignore me? And will I make friends, or will I always feel alone?
The leopard let out a low rumble, its tail swishing in the dirt. It was as if O'Shea was scolding her for doubting herself. Wumni chuckled despite her worry.
All right, I know. I shouldn't be thinking like this. But it's hard, O'Shea. I've never been this far from home before. And Mama...
Her voice softened. She fell silent for a moment, the ache of her mother's absence pressing against her heart. For the first time in her life, she would face the unknown without the comfort of her mother's wisdom.
I'll miss her more than anything. I already do. Every time I have a question or a doubt, or even just a thought I can't quite figure out, she's always been the one I turn to. How am I supposed to do this without her?
The sun dipped lower, painting the sky with somber strokes. Wumni adjusted the pack on her back and straightened her shoulders, her resolve fighting to surface through the tide of her worries.
But I have to try, don't I?
As Wumni walked, the warmth of the sun fading into the cool embrace of twilight, her thoughts visited a place in her memories that always evoke emotions. Her thoughts lingered on the warmth of her father's memory, a presence that had always guided her, even in silence. But today, the ache of his passing felt sharper, more vivid, stirred by the path ahead and the weight of the journey. She missed him dearly. His strength, his guidance, and above all, the calming presence that could still the wildest storm.
I wish Papa were here. Mama does too, I can tell. She doesn't say it, but I know she misses him. I just miss him telling me everything would be okay. Do you know he'd always call me his little topaz? My precious gem, he'd say. I'd make him tell me the story of the tale of Temilohla the topaz every single night.
O'Shea flicked its tail, as if urging her to continue. Wumni's voice softened, her words filled with fondness as she remembered.
I'd beg him to tell it every night, and every night he'd groan and say, "Not again, Wumni, you've heard it 100 times. But then he'd laugh and tell it anyway, and he'd tell it like it was the first time, every single time.
Her footsteps slowed as she recalled the story. It was her favorite, one she could easily tell herself now, but it was her father's voice that made it come alive.
All right, my little topaz, settle down. This is the story of how the most precious gem of all came into its own. Now, do you know what a blue topaz is, Wumni? Of course you do. It's a stone as beautiful as your eyes, blue as the sky, shimmering and rare. But did you know, my little gem, that a natural blue topaz is whispered about even by the stars themselves? It's so rare and so treasured that the earth keeps it hidden until it's ready to reveal its brilliance.
Wumni, even as a little girl, would hang on every word, her eyes wide with wonder as she clung to her father's every syllable. She'd nod solemnly, understanding every word in her heart, even if not fully in her mind.
You see, Wumni, a topaz is beautiful even before it's blue. But to reach its full brilliance, it has to endure. It has to go through fire, through trials, through change. And when it does, it becomes something extraordinary, something the world treasures. And that's what you are, my little topaz. Beautiful as you are now, but one day, after you've faced your trials and overcome them, you'll shine even brighter than you do today.
Wumni could still remember the way his voice softened when he reached the end, his warm hands cradling her face as he whispered,
You are rare, Wumni. Honored, loved, and treasured. But remember, brilliance comes with effort. And even when it's hard, you'll always have me and your mother watching over you. Always. Even the day when my body returns to dust, as all things must. But even then, I will remain. I will be the soil beneath your feet, holding you steady through every storm. You will never be alone, my little gem. I'll always be there.
Wumni remembers her father's final words, because they are the very ones she carries deep within her, to this very day.
Though Wumni was very young, she had felt the weight of his words, even if she hadn't fully understood them. Now, as she walked, she felt the truth of his promise with every step she took. The earth beneath her feet, steady and grounding, was a reminder that her father's love and strength were always with her. Wumni, smiling through her memories.
He made me feel like I was the most special person in the world. Like I could do anything, even when I doubted myself.
As Wumni walked, her thoughts lingered on her father's memory. He had been gone for many years now. She could still remember that last morning so vividly. She was only 5 years old, but the moment was etched in her soul as though it had happened yesterday.
You know, O'Shea, the last thing Pawpaw said to me before he left was...
Her voice wavered for a moment before she steadied herself.
He said, "Shine brilliant without limits, my sweetest topaz."
Wumni smiled faintly through the ache of the memory. Even as a child, she hadn't fully understood the weight of his words, but now, with each trial she faced, she realized they had been more than a goodbye. They were a charge, a prophecy, a reminder of who she was meant to be. That morning had been like any other. The sun rose, casting golden light over the village, and her father prepared to leave for a hunting trip. Before he left, he knelt before her, brushing her cheek with his calloused but gentle hand. He hugged her tightly, kissed her on the forehead, and with one last glance over his shoulder, he was gone. At the time, it felt like an ordinary parting, one of the countless hunts he had taken to provide for their family. But when night fell and he did not return, the ordinary became something far more ominous. Days passed, each one heavy with uncertainty and fear. The entire village joined in the search, combing the surrounding forests and beyond. They found no sign of him, save for a broken spear and scattered arrows near the base of a tree. There were no other clues, just the eerie silence of the wilderness. The mystery of her father's disappearance had stayed as whispers in the village ever since. Some whispered that warring tribes had captured him. Others believed the forest itself had claimed him, its dangers too great even for a skilled hunter like him. But no one truly knew, and that not knowing left a hollow place in Wumni's and hers mother's heart that nothing could fill. She sighed, running her fingers over O'Shea's fur as they walked. The leopard growled softly, as if sensing her sadness. Wumni straightened her shoulders, brushing the thoughts aside for now.
but I know what he'd tell me if he were here. He'd say, Wumni, don't let the world dim you. Shine brilliant without limits. And that's exactly what I'm going to do for him.
The fire in her heart reignited. Wumni quickened her pace. The path ahead was still uncertain, and her father's fate remained a mystery. But one thing was clear. His words would always guide her, a beacon through even the darkest times. She wiped a tear from her cheek, the ache of missing him sharp but sweet. The stars began to peek through the darkening sky, and for a moment she thought she could feel his arms around her and hear her mother's words, steadying her as they always had.
You know what, Oshe? I think I'll tell the story to myself once more tonight. Yes, and it will be wonderful.
As the first cool breeze of evening brushed her face, Wumni lifted her head high. The path ahead was uncertain, but in her heart she carried her father's words. She was his little topaz, and no trial could dull her shine. She was meant to endure, to grow, and to become something truly extraordinary. Oshe purred softly, its approval evident. Wumni smiled again, this time with a touch more confidence. The path ahead was long and uncertain, but she had her companion, her determination, and the lessons her loving parents had imparted. Wumni playfully nudges Oshe with her shoulder.
Come on, let's keep moving. We've got a long way to go. It looks like you and I will be sleeping under the stars tonight.
With that, Wumni and her leopard continued down the dusty road, the whispers of the past guiding her steps toward a future yet unwritten. Each step carried her forward, the earth beneath her feet steady with her father's promise. She felt his love in the soil, the wind, the sky, a legacy of strength woven into the very fabric of her journey. Behind her lay the safety of home, familiar and comforting. Ahead of her stretched the unknown, a world of trials that would test her spirit, sharpen her resolve, and shape her into the warrior she was destined to become. And though she could not see the end of the journey, she carried within her the light of her father's words, her mother's guidance, and her own unwavering determination. Whatever lay ahead, she would face it, as her father had always believed she would. Oshe tilts his head, as if approving of her newly awakened inner strength. With a gentle nudge against her side, Oshe steps forward, his golden coat shimmering in the soft glow of twilight. As day gave way to night, Wumni smiled, the corners of her lips curving upward in quiet understanding.
Thank you, Oshe.
And though she could not see the end of the journey, the nudge of her loyal companion reminded her she was not alone. Thank you for watching Wumni the Blue-Eyed Warrior. The journey begins. But what awaits Wumni upon her arrival? Will she prove herself and earn her place? Will she come to realize that the hardest battles are not always fought with weapons? Join us in Chapter 5, where Wumni steps into the warrior's arena, unaware that her greatest challenge is already watching, waiting, and plotting against her. If you've enjoyed this journey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you won't miss what happens next. The real test is about to begin.